What's up? It's your boy Chris Harris. One more time for the Rockets recap. It's been a minute since I've done one of these, like a long time. Um, Sorry to make y'all wait, but really with the game four loss, really felt like I just needed to kind of say some stuff, get it off my chest. There's nothing's written down for this. Didn't script it, but I really wanted to speak my mind a little bit. Won't take long, but I just wanted to say a few things about the playoffs, the season to the rebuild, all that stuff. And there's plenty of time to kind of discuss it all. But I want to just kind of give my the 2 cents, the little 2 cents that's been around my brain since the loss. Um, I want to talk about coaching, right, and like what it is to coach, really, like in like the theory of it. Um, so there's a couple things. There are the mental aspects of coaching, like to build people up and to empower them and to all that stuff as a leader. Professional coach, like that's something that I do. Like that's really the goal is to as like that's what the title implies. Like your role is to help someone grow and to become the best version of themselves and all that stuff. It's kind of like parenting, right? Like your goal is not for your own edification, not for your own growth. It's for the growth of those around you. That's what the coach's role is. And what frustrates one of the things that frustrates me about Ime is that he's like kind of in a box, right? Like he looks at himself a certain way. He looks at victory, winning, the way that a team wins a certain way, and it's very defense driven, very effort driven. Hard nosed defenders, the Jay Sean Tates, the Tari Easons, are the people that I'm sure he sees a reflection of himself in. It's called a halo effect. Makes people that are like you appear more pleasing to you. Um, and I think that's how he sees himself. He sees himself as a hard nosed. He came up in the league, hard nosed offender. It was never the most talented player, but it was just tough. And like the issue with that as a coach is that you should look for the virtue in all, right? You need to alleviate your own personal bias and look to the betterment of each individual and also the collective in this case. And personally, I feel like Ime fails pretty badly in that category. If you think back a couple years, he wanted to bring in, at least the general knowledge of the fan base is that either the organization or Ime in particular wanted to bring in Brook Lopez have an additional type of big, a more defensive oriented big, and speculation was that that would probably lead to the benching of Shingun. Now, obviously it didn't happen, so we can't confirm that. But it gives you an idea of what his mentality is. Obviously your most talented offensive player, you're willing to bench for this idea of the virtue of tough and this virtue of scrappy and defensive minded. Um, and like the team is not the all is not composed solely of those type of players. You have Cam, um, dynamite offensive player, not the most defensive minded player. And instead of being willing to coach him up on the defensive side and give him some leeway and give him some encouragement, and maybe he's doing that behind the scenes. I don't want to imply that I know everything that's going on with the team, but if not, then that's kind of an indictment. Reed, again, same deal. Super uber talented shooter. Has a lot of Fred Van bleed in him from an offensive standpoint. Very steady, but he's small, and that can compromise your defense unless you're just a really savvy, veteran defensive guy. So you see Fred, you see Reed be phased out in this year of Rockies basketball, and those decisions um, negatively impacted the team, and you put a ceiling on the team because again you don't right now you're struggling to find an offensive spark, especially when Jalen's not performing. You're struggling to find consistent offense, and it just ends up being Shingun ISO, Shingun ISO, Shingun ISO, and that's an Ime big picture coaching thing. It's a big picture, you know, looking at the whole and looking at the benefit of the whole instead of looking at the aspect of the game that you see your reflection in. I think it's easy for him to understand the Tari Easons. It's easy for him to understand Jabari Smith. It's easy for him to understand Dylan Brooks, Fred Van Vliet, and to relate to those people and to give those people the benefit of the doubt. Again, halo effect. But it's harder for him to see the uber talented Cam Whitmore, the offensively shooting gifted Reed, and to give them the same benefit of the doubt afforded to the other players. So that is like big macro problem with Ime and his philosophy, like how he sees the world, at least from what I know and what I see. To go beyond that though, and it's still Ime philosophy because you can see we're a really good defensive team. Quite frankly, I would stack our defense up against daggone near anybody in the league. Our half court offense is garbage, just utter trash, boo boo, just awful. And that we knew that. Like this is not something that that's a mystery that has watched the team. And instead of Ime realizing, recognizing that, and saying, you know what, hey, let me diversify my offense, let me, do this and do that, to get us prepared for the battles ahead. His philosophy was just swinging more and more and more into that defensive identity. Again, looking at allowing his personal philosophy to color his approach to coaching the team, which is a problem. It is a big, long-term ceiling problem. Like a lot of people talked about the free throws and missed opportunities and layups. There will be fluctuation. There will there's variance from game to game to game to game. You're not going to get 80%, especially with the team like in this stage of development. You're not going to get 80-90% free throws. You're not going to hit every layup. That's just not where we are. But you can philosophically get the things right. That's completely within your control. There's no variance there when it comes to philosophy, like to have the right approach. And I struggle with Ime's approach, and I think that is one of the most concerning things, if not the most concerning thing, with how this is playing out, because you can see the bad decision making, the small bad decision making back at the beginning of the season. Those seeds that the Bible talks about, when a man sows, so shall he reap. And those little bad seeds that were sown years ago, like when the beginning of Ime's tenure, even back to again the Brook Lopez situation. Those seeds that were sown back then, you see the reaping of that, and it's just a problem. And I don't know if it's gonna I think it puts a ceiling on how far this team can go, unless you just get like some type of offensive savant like the new James Harden, that kind of surpasses kind of scheme and game plan and all that stuff. So macro issue 1, macro issue 2, Jalen Green. There's not a lot I can say that hasn't been said in some other way, shape, form, or fashion over these last 4 years in the Jalen Green experience. Anyone that knows me knows I'm not a big Jalen Green fan. Shouldn't be a shocker to anybody that knows me. But I will say though, even I, as a Jalen Green truther, thought that he had started turning a page. I thought he was legitimately improving. I thought he for the majority of the season, I think he had one really down month, and every player's going to have up and down games. But for the majority of the season, I think he did an admirable job. Maybe not as consistent as we want him to be. Maybe not super duper star or whatever. But genuinely, I think he made progress. Um, and that's not to be scoffed at, right? Like we shouldn't just look at what happened in what's happening in the playoffs and say like Jalen Green is a trash player or that he has no value. He's a bust. I saw that today. I laughed, but it's not an accurate statement, right? What Jalen is more complicated than I think Twitter allows the for nuance. But what really needs to take place is for the team to have an honest evaluation of if he's going to remain on the team, what his role needs to be going forward. I mentioned that he would be a really good sixth man in my group chat, and I got laughed at when I said it because I'm like, I think it was after game one, and he blew up in game two, and so after game two, like, oh, you said six man, but I really think that his skill set is really more that of a third bench option. Quite frankly, he doesn't. His lateral movement is not good. Still offensively, he's learned how to move better laterally, defensively. But he doesn't have. He's not shifty. He doesn't. Once he gets, he's a very good straight line driver. But he doesn't do well going from side to side. Um, there's not a lot of deception. There's not a lot of deceleration. There's not a lot of I don't want to say trickery. That's not the right word, but where you start here, you get here, you're moving around defenders, you're initiating the contact, but you're still able to finish. Those type of things. There's not a lot of that in Jalen's game, and the more that as I've I've watched basketball my whole life, but the more I start to understand basketball, the more I realize that like, hey, being straight line drive fast is really not that important. Some of the greatest basketball players of our time, the Luka Doncic is the Jalen, no, excuse me, the James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Jokic, Joel Embiid, um, even like Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Tyrese Halliburton, just Kyrie Irving. These guys are not like sprinter fast. Just not like the vast majority of really good players. Like look at Anthony Edwards, incredibly great shooter, good defender. Can score literally on all three levels. Is an improved passer, all that stuff. He's built like a tank. Um, you know, Jason Tatum, tall, strong. Jalen Brown, built like a tank. James Harden, built like a tank. Um, the vast majority of these, I don't know about vast, but the majority of these guys, unless you're Steph and you have like a really, you could be slender, and Steph's not like super skinny. You be slender but have a really, niche. Like he just has an amazing shot. You know what I mean? He has this talent, this skill that kind of transcends, physical limitations. KD, the slender guy, not super strong, but he just is a born scorer and an improved defender. And I say all that to say that like being enamored with that aspect of his game, like him being fast, just is not really helpful. Being able to jump out the gym. Well, if you're not strong enough to get in the paint, then who cares if you can jump? Like he just doesn't do anything. It's not helpful. Like you have to be able to weaponize the skills and the talents and the ability that you've been given. Are they useless? And a lot. Jalen's not a good shooter. Jalen's not super great in finishing at the rim. He's not a great mid-range shooter. He doesn't finish through contact. Like after a point, you kind of like, what why are we investing all this time and these resources and the opportunity cost? Because like you develop in this particular case, you develop Jalen at the expense of Cam. You develop Jalen at the expense, at least to an extent, of Reed, and you put the ball in his hands more and more and more as the season progressed to give him the runway to become the best version of himself, quite frankly. And those reps and those opportunities could have been given elsewhere. Could have went full shin hub. Again, Cam, Reed, even Fred. Any, like if Jalen is not going to take advantage of the opportunities provided to him to become a more well-rounded um, player, then why are we giving him so many opportunities? Um, I say all this to say that moving forward, I hope this, and I'm not even sure if this is going to even change anything with the front office, quite frankly. But moving forward, my hope is that um, we move forward. Like either reduce Jalen's role, move forward, move away from him, like trade him away, something, something. Like he can't just be do the same thing again. Um, and the one thing that I've always said with Jalen in particular, like you can bench him, you can make him the sixth man, you can reduce his role, you can put somebody else in that lead spot with Shingun, bring in trade for a star, whatever. Um, you can do that, and he can still develop. Like it doesn't like you don't he doesn't stop developing. He doesn't stop growing because his role changed. Because he doesn't get the ball, shoot the ball 35 times in a game, 25 times in a game. Like it doesn't change that. So if the team has put a lot of effort into him, a lot of time. So if they decide that they want to keep him, fine, whatever, it's cool. But you have to really take a moment now at this point to say like this just might not be the role that he's ready for right now. Maybe he won't be ever. Maybe he's a better second fiddle, third fiddle. Maybe he's not Batman. Maybe he's Robin. Maybe he's not Robin. Maybe he's Alfred. Maybe he's not Alfred. He's Barbara Gordon. I don't know, but it's time to start considering um, what the appropriate fate for Jalen Green is. Because it's sure not 1A, um, tip of the spear guy at this point at this juncture in his career. He needs to get stronger. He needs to work on his handle. He needs to be able to finish through traffic. He needs to be able to navigate traffic without losing the ball. Um, just all those type of things offensively. If the goal is ultimately for him to be greater than he is today. Um, what other thoughts? That's really um, Shingun did what I thought he could do. Um, Funny, oddly enough, Shingun is probably like one of our best ball handlers. He's probably one of our best play initiators. He's definitely, one of our better half court options. Um, he still has growing up to do. Those push shots, nah, bro, nah, just nah. But you know, it says something to me that he has the confidence and the wherewithal to take them, to continue to take them, and like the team needed him. So I'm glad that he didn't get scared and start passing out. Like he tried his best, and you get props for that. Um, he still a lot. He still needs to grow, no doubt about it. But I am proud. Proud is probably too strong a word, but I am looking forward to continue to watch him develop. Amen. Another guy that I'm not as high on as maybe most people are, but I like him. I like the kid. I think gotta get the jumper together. If the goal is for you to be a top tier superstar in the league, the marquee guy. I hope he does, but don't see it yet. That's just me. Um, Last thing I'm gonna say, and then I call him name. I'm tired. But Raphael Stone, I said this on Twitter earlier. The job of the GM and the job of the coach is to fix problems. Like the people were like, well, they didn't hit the free throws, they missed the bunnies, all this stuff, and that's true. Like the players could have played better. No doubt about it. But when you know that there's an issue and you fail to address it for whatever reason, whether it's I don't want to gather data, I believe in the defense. Let's want more defense. And you ignore the obvious problems with the offense, the spacing, the shooting, the free throws, um, the lack of of shot creation, um, and even to the extent where like you're literally benching you're benching the solution, the possible solution, um, instead of allowing them space and time to just find their rhythm and find their niche, their spot in the team. Um, that's not a good thing from Stone or from Ime. To allow problems to sit, to allow problems to grow. I remember when Fred first got there and we were doing that Fred Shingun pick and roll, just spam it, spam it, spam it. And as time has progressed, like that's gone away. What do we run? We run the Spain action and horns and stuff. To what end? Like, what are we trying to like? Who are we trying to get going? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the point? Um, Especially like right now, where it's obvious that Shingun is the guy offensively. What are we doing to maximize Shingun? Um, if the vision of the team is not, hey, we don't want to maximize Shingun, we want to maximize Amen, we want to maximize Jabari, whoever. What are we doing to get to manifest that vision? Um, I feel like Stone is cautious by nature. No problem with that. I'm cautious by nature. Anybody will tell you like I'm cautious by nature, but you can't let that desire for being cautious and not dramatically reacting to a concern or an issue prevent you from seeing the problems that you're hired to fix. And again, that maybe this came from Patrick, and then at that point, there's just nothing you can do. But if not, our Tillman. But if not, fix the problem. Shooting's the problem. Fix the problem. DeAndre Hunter went for like 3 twos. Fix the problem. If if you think that shot creation is an issue, Colin Sexton is out there. Um, who else? I can't even think of the other names that got traded recently, but you can get what's his name, the point guard for the Suns. Come off the bench, be Fred's primary backup. Um, there's tons of those 6 man type scorers. How they can scoring bunches off the bench. Duncan Robinson types, even though he's super duper expensive, that's not who I would target. But just there's a million of those guys. Just line up, 2 guard, combo guard, scoring type of cats. Get them for a second. They get traded every year. Find those cats. Solve that problem. Make your team, you don't have to mortgage the future. You don't have to sacrifice first. But you can trade away a second here. Trade away an end of the bench player there that's on the expiring contract. To offer some cap relief. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's doable. So do it. You don't lose anything in that scenario. Do it. So anyway, Rockets recap. Post Game 4 edition. Just wanted to get my thoughts out there. Y'all holler at your boy. Let me know what you think. Peace and hair grease.